Hi guys, Pidget here. Let me show you how powerful can be Death Squad for mopping and scourging. Last week GG buffed the League mechanic, so I decided to build a character around this for exclusively for Scourge encounters. Let me tell you pros and cons for this build, why you use this or why not. First, the pros. You can build really easily and cheap. I made mine like 1 or 2 exalted investment. Don't have to spam abilities while playing. Good for delving, for AWA missions and obliterate blighted encounters. Can deal damage while moving, you can easily dodge anything if telegraphed the ability. Occultist explosions is so good to hear, also really nice feeling when something blew up on the screen. Really fast on maps, very zoomy build. Because we can complete maps so fast, we can bake, Kranger or Scourge, whatever you want to name it, fast. Can handle high Scourge stacks thanks to life gain on kill from the tree. Also, the most important thing about the build, it's fun, also relaxing. You can play this without much brain power usage. While I played this, I mostly watched movies and TV shows on the other screen. Now the bad news. Cons. You can play this before level 62. You need to level with something else till that point. I will tell you what you can use for leveling later in this video. Bossing is bad. You have almost no DPS on them, so this is not a boss killer by any means. If you want to kill bosses like Awakener or Maven, just don't play this. You will slow down on higher mobs like tier 14. Can't face tank any boss. You don't have anything defensive besides the slow from the Ascendary and the high life pool. You need maximum chaos resistance, otherwise you die from the degen. My gear is right now. The most important gear is the body armor. Otherwise you can't use this build, because you can get Death Aura as a gem. You need the off-color body armor, because the support gems demand. But you don't have to get a 6 link, just need to have 6 seconds. How to get off colors on your body armor? The easiest way is just buy one. You can get really cheap. When I was making this video, the cheapest piece was 30 KS. I'm using one-handed weapon for the damage over time increase because the bow variant is really expensive to get, thanks to the toxic rain method. Also, you can get higher life with a shield than a quiver. The rest of the gear nothing fancy, check a basic few rares. On the helmet, I'm using Purity of Elements enchantment for extra mana reservation. My ring is self-crafted. You can craft yourself like this with alteration spam. I made this too under 150 alteration orb. For ore, amulet anointment, I'm suggesting using acrimony. You need to use a clear oil and 2 black oil. The setup is the following. I'm using Eternal Life Flask with Bleed and Corrupted Blended Immunity, Rumi Flask for extra armor, extra chance to block attack damage and spell damage, a Quicksilver Flask for extra movement speed and even more movement speed affix on them, Forbidden Taste Unique Flask for extra survivability, with used when take a savage hit enchantment. You can get this mod using Inch Dealing Orb on them. And lastly, I'm using Enduring Divine Mana Flask for extra mana sustain. Jewels. I'm using Damage Over Time Multiplier and Extra Life Jewels. A quick tip. You can get a cheap Jewel if you searching Damage Over Time Multiplier instead Chaos Damage Over Time Multiplier. The difference between Chaos Damage Over Time versus Basic over time multiplier is just a few percentage damage loss, but the price difference is really noticeable. I'm using Anatomical Knowledge Jewel for extra life. With a Cluster Jewel with increased chaos damage, but you don't have to get 8 passive 1. 8 passive 1 is really expensive, so just get one with 9 points and 2 notable. I got mine for 30 chaos with crafted notables. This way you can get a really cheap Cluster Jewel. Right now, I'm using Wicked Pall and Touch of Cruelty on them. On the medium clusters, I'm using two of the same cluster jewel, Flow of Life and Brewed for Potency. Let's take a look on the skill tree. We're starting in the witch area, grabbing life and mana nodes here, then we grabbing aura effect node here for extra aura effect and aura damage, then we pathing toward life and taking the life mastery, 50 to maximum life, then we grabbing the full chaos damage wheel here and taking the chaos mastery increased effect of Withered. After that, we taking the Javel socket here for our anatomical knowledge Javel. After that, we going to pathing towards trickery, blood siphon, coordination, and we taking the chaos damage over time cluster here and chaos mastery, chaos damage over time multiplier per 4% chaos resistance. Taking the Javel socket here and the aura cluster here for charisma and reservation mastery for increasement reservation efficiency of our skills. The chaos damage over time node here, entropy. After that, Fangs of Viper for extra chaos damage and move speed, and Blood Drinker for maximum life, life mastery for increased maximum life, the Javel socket here, and node here for even more life. We can take even more chaos damage over time multiplier here, growth and decay, and damage over time mastery, 10% damage over time multiplier if you killed recently. Then we can take maximum life node here, and even more chaos damage over time multiplier here, and entropy and chaos mastery for extra chaos resistance, and aura cluster here for influence and reservation mastery. Aura from your skills have increased effect on you. For cluster jewels, we're using 9 passive skills cluster jewel with increased chaos damage. We're using Wicked Paul and Touch of Cruelty on this medium cluster jewels, Brewed for Potency, Flow of Life, and again Flow of Life, and again Brewed for Potency, and using the jewel sockets here. The reason is why I'm using 9 passive cluster jewel, because the 8 ones is really expensive. Also the 9 ones with 2 notables really cheap, and you can get for 30 chaos. Let's take on the gamblings and auras. I'm using in my body armor for Death's Aura a life tap, void manipulation, restoration, swift application, concentrated effect, and efficacy. Totem setup with their multiple totems, spell totem for boss fights and tougher enemies. Curse and aura setup. Despair with blasphemy for aura cursing, purity of elements and malevolence. I'm using purity of elements for extra elemental resistance and to get elemental immunity. Target setup: blight, control destruction, infuse channeling, and swift application. For movement skill, we're using dash with life tap and second wind for extra usage on or dash, and a steal skill. The reason is why we're using life tap here, because we proc it with dash, and on our main skill we will proc the life tap from the skill. And this will give us even more damage on our main link. As you can see, 50% damage from the life tap. Now the leveling process. You can use +1 to level of all chaos spell skill gems bond at level 2. You need to do the vendor recipe for that. Use gems with chaos tag and also need to them some of the gem quality reach 3%. You will use that till level 62. I used Blight till level 12 and then switch to Essence Drain Contagion. If you don't like this playstyle, you can switch at 28 to Bane, but you still need to use Essence Drain on bosses. When you hit 62, you can use the Death's Oath body armor, but you need Chaos Resistance. I fixed my Chaos Resistance with 2 cheap rings and Chaos Resist on them. Just one, don't worry about the rings, you just need to have Chaos Resistance on them. I stopped and black out and leveled there, or you can just do that for leveling. Also, in the path of building under the notes page, you will find a few things about the early gemlings and tips for easier leveling experience, so please use it as a guidance for your journey.